Bueno, todo aquel... Perdona.
We have a mic.
We have a mic. Todo aquel que tenga preguntas, si podéis hacer una fila aquí, por ejemplo. Si nos gusta aquí, la podemos hacer aquí. O si no, allí. Y os dejaré un micro aquí al primero que venga. Mira. Y ya está. Y luego ya, pues, entre vosotros. La fila ahí en medio.
Could you talk a bit more about those changes you said that are going to happen from now in ahead?
Okay. So the question is, can I talk a little bit more about the changes? Well, the changes are happening right now. They're not, in the future. They're, look in the world today. The economy is collapsing. Is one way of, yes, well, that has physical consequences for many people. There's all sorts of temperature change that are occurring. There is, more activity that's occurring in our weather systems, in our seismic systems, with more seismic activity all around the world. And we are reaching a very important point. And that point is a change in our solar dynamics. Every 11 years, the sun flips its poles. Did you know that? Every 11 years, the sun, magnetic field flips. And when it does, the sun becomes active. And, this dynamic in our sun is this time very different. It's changed. It's behaving very much differently than the other times. And part of why NASA is realizing is because our heliosphere, which is a bubble that's generated by the sun wind, okay, the plasma of the sun, that bubble is being compressed because the sun is moving through a denser part of our galactic equator. And it's because the equator is a double torus. And so the sun is moving through that part of the double torus where the magnetic lines of force are very strong. And there's a lot of particles that are being accelerated from the galactic center. So we're getting hit by what is called galactic cosmic rays. So there's more radiation, planets are heating up, all the planets in our solar system. And so these are all the kind of changes that are occurring. How is that going to affect the Earth? It's already affecting the Earth. But, you can imagine that we could have large earthquake. We could have, volcanic eruptions like the one that stopped all the planes from flying not so long ago. We could have large tsunami activity, meltdown of the ice sheets, which would raise the water, in our oceans. All these things are slowly increasing and occurring as we speak. So those changes are occurring, and at the same time, there's a change in our society that's coordinating because the way we've built our society is not sustainable. So like our economic system is collapsing, it has to be replaced by an economic system that's sustainable, right? So all of the structures are changing, and with that change, there's a lot of suffering. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the U.S. that are ending up in the streets every month because they're losing their house and na. You know, there's more and more people suffering. So these changes are occurring right now, and they're necessary because the old system has to fall for the new to come out. So we don't have to worry about breaking down the old system. It's breaking down on its own. What we have to make sure is that we have the new system in place so that we can replace it and move forward and go to the next level as the old crumbles. And that's what we got to keep our eyes on. We got to keep our eyes on the positive side of the change, on the possibility that's being offered at this time for us. And that positive side is that we recognize our true power, we recognize the fundamental principles of creation within ourselves, and we apply it to our technology to transform our world. The outside technology and the inside technology has to come together so that the outside and the inside is matched, and then we can ascend. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Quiero darte las gracias por compartir tu sabiduría y tu alegría de vivir.
Mike?
Me gustaría darte las gracias. He would like to thank you for your knowledge. No lo sé. ¿Están traduciendo? Bueno, es igual, no te preocupes. Ya vamos bien. No te preocupes. Dale ahí.
En junio de este año, en Alicante,
In June of this year in Alicante,
estuve escuchando al astrofísico doctor Paul Laviolette.
I was listening to Paul Laviolette,
Su teoría, su quantum kinetics.
His quantum kinetics.
Cinética subcuántica.
Yeah.
Mi pregunta es si puedes decir algo, un poquito.
Can you talk about it?
¿Qué diferencias y qué coincidencias tiene su teoría unificada también? Intento de explicar el origen de la materia y el universo con tu visión.
What differences does it have with your theory?
Between the theory of Paul Laviolette and mine.
Yeah.
Okay. My theory is actually a unification theory that gets rid of most of quantum theory. So that actually we're dealing with the subatomic particles in terms of mini classical body, mini black holes, right? Paul did an excellent job at describing some of the dynamics there. I think it applies to what I'm doing. When it's actually going to be put together, it's going to be very powerful. But in one way, Paul Laviolette's theory, is still using principles that are in the standard model of the quantum world that I think are not correct or not accurate. So, but I think that what he touched on is accurate, is correct in that the structure that he's describing at the subatomic, lowest level of oscillation is this coherent structure that I'm describing in terms of black hole dynamics. So I'm coming at it from a classical point of view, from a classical, mechanical, Einsteinian way, and he's coming at it using quantum theory. So, I think we meet somewhere in there. The link is not so obvious yet. But I think there's a meeting possible there, and I'm hoping that we can collaborate on that at one point. Thank you. What were you going to say? Right, the ether mechanics of the quantum world. Right, you see, that's the thing, is that ether is a concept that had been there for a very long time prior to Einstein's field equation. Then when Einstein was brought in, then it was said, oh, we don't need ether anymore. And, you know, they replaced ether with space-time. But I think that the confusion there is very difficult, because ether, now you have ether, space-time, and vacuum fluctuation, which is space-time fluctuating at the quantum level. And I don't use the terminology ether, because when you say ether, right away physicists are thinking that it's that other thing, right? From before Einstein that you're trying to bring back in. Sorry. You know? So I don't use that, because I think what people were thinking about when they were talking about ether is actually vacuum fluctuation in modern physics. So, right. So she was saying that he's been trying to show graphics of vacuum fluctuation to demonstrate ether. I'm saying that the vacuum itself, the fluctuation of the vacuum itself is the ether, right? So that if you add an ether on top of it, then again, it's like when you add the strong force, or when you add dark matter, like it, you know, you're adding complexity, or instead of trying to find the source, right? And I think the source is these vacuum fluctuations. So, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
As you say, everything comes from that net of the tetrahedrons, okay? And that net should be in everything, from the infinite little to the infinite big.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean the things on the galaxy are put it in exact place. So the events about the huge energy from quasar or something like this are not in the intersections of that net, or it's something that we can draw a map where we can move with that net of tetrahedrons. I don't know if you follow me. So if you draw that tetrahedrons in the galaxy, in each cross or each intersection should be there where it's located a big star or black hole or something like this. Is something that we can use to draw a map of the galaxy where we can move.
Navigate?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, if you were to look at superclusters, and that's very interesting, when they start to get enough resolution to be able to photograph superclusters, they realize that superclusters make huge octahedron tetrahedrons in the sky. So actually, you're right, it's actually there. Yes, the geometry of the vacuum gives you a map, a roadway on how to go through the system. And actually, that roadway is found in ancient tablets that were left on our planet. It's found in ancient tablets, like for instance, ancient Egyptian tablets that talks about how you move through the universe is to zigzag through the universe. And you know, that's what I was talking about before. You go through the center of the Earth, through the center of the Sun, through the center of the galaxy. That's the zigzag.
And if we are able to draw it, where?
Yeah.
With that net of the
Yeah, we can. We can draw it. Very good. That's correct. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Is there any part of the body, the human body, that has a special meaning in terms of gravity? Because sometimes you talk about the heart, but in the magnetic sense. But about the gravity, I'm thinking about the hara or Tantien or...
Yeah. So you want to know in the body if there is a gate. Right. So a singularity. Okay. So it's in every one of your atoms, right? Every atom has a singularity in the middle of it, according to what I found. And all the atoms together produce another scale singularity that's in the middle of your heart. Okay? And it's actually between the two ventriculars of your heart is a power source of the heart, and that's why it produces a huge magnetic field. Electromagnetic field can be measured, 12 feet away from you. And actually, this is still to be confirmed, but there's studies that show that when people die, 21 gram goes missing. That's the weight of that singularity. That's the mass of that singularity. It's actually 21 gram in E equals mc squared represent a lot of energy. Yeah? That's the information that you hold, right? And so, that is your center. And when I talk about the meditation I was talking about reproducing that field in your body, I talk about, when I teach it, I show that you can, like the crown chakra is actually the entry point of the vortex. This is why the saints are represented with a halo, is because when your vortex is spinning really, really fast, it might actually light up. And, and so it goes, and then the Kundalini rising is the vortex that's coming from the ground, and it meets at the heart, at the singularity in the heart, and from there it radiates the equator. That is your platform that defines your field in the universe. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Bueno, buenas tardes. Me gustaría dar las gracias a Haramein, aunque ya se ha adelantado Jesús. Pero bueno,
Thanks again.
gracias al cuadrado. Que quería comentar que me ha resultado muy curioso sobre el tema que ha hablado de la transmutación.
He liked the transmutation theme that you were talking about. Transmutation.
Okay.
Porque leí hace poco un libro que se llamaba Agua Vida, de Victor Schauberger,
He read a book about Victor Schauberger that's
Yeah.
called
y hacía experimentos con el agua haciendo vórtices y conseguía transmutar. O sea, el mismo efecto que
He did
conseguía-
experiments with water creating vortexes and ¿qué has dicho?
He
que
got
conseguía transmutar usando
And,
vórtices de agua.
and he could
transmutation.
yeah.
See, my Spanish is getting better by the minute. I'm tapping in the vacuum, There's enough Spanish morphogenic field around here, Okay, so your question is it similar?
La pregunta es que a través del vórtice realmente es como se consigue la
Oh,
transmutación.
yeah. Now I gotta translate the whole thing.
¿Qué decías? Perdona. Repíteme la pregunta.
que si realmente influye el hecho del vórtice en la transmutación. O sea,
Does
porque ya
the vortex issue really influence in the
The transmutation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
¿Cómo cuesta esa palabra?
vortices and makes the the transmutation, because remember I was saying how atoms are produced. They are coming out of black holes in the vortex, and the angle at which they come out produce the table of elements. Well, you know, if you now it's spinning this way, now it's one element, and you put it in a field that moves that vortex to another angle, now you got a different element, right? So you just got to produce a field that's strong enough to make the change. Now, you can do that mechanically, like Schauberger did it mechanically, by mechanically spinning the water, but it's not so effective. If you do it, you can spin the water to get these effects, or you can spin the electromagnetic field, you can spin the gravitational field, you can spin the structure of space-time, and the water will, or the elements will respond, right? Because it's the structure of space-time that's spinning these elements in the first place. Remember, atoms are little vortices of space-time itself, vortices of the vacuum itself. And so you can, if you're influencing the vacuum, you can change these angles at will. So when I have devices that spin in the millions of RPMs, I will be able to make very, very incredible elements.
una cosita más te quería comentar. Me ha resultado curioso el hecho de ver la bobina esta circular, que sería como la pancake coil de Tesla.
I saw your, no sé cómo se dice bobina en inglés.
Coil.
Ah, I saw your coil and it
yeah.
was really, I liked it.
Tesla coil, pancake coil.
Ah, it seemed like Tesla's
Oh,
coil.
yeah, absolutely. These coils is like a combination of Schauberger, Tesla, and many other, like, you know, all put together. I came up with it independently from studying the structure of space-time, but when you look in history, many inventors had part of the geometry. For instance, Tesla pancake coils is the equator, but then the top part is like when Tesla built what we call Tesla coil, he built cone, not cylinders. You know, modern Tesla coils, but he built cones because he knew it was a vortex, right? So it's like the cone with the pancake with the torus, you know, all put together.
Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hi, Nassim.
Hello.
Your talk contains a really positive message about sharing knowledge and advanced civilization and so on. But I'm afraid that the economic system that we live in will try to get your ideas, buy them, and get your inventions, and maybe in hands of multinationals or big corporations, all your inventions won't be shared so fast and won't be shared by so many people in a way that are cheaper to get or even free to get and share. Is there a plan that you have so that way we don't let everything be controlled by this
I
big
have
corporation?
a plan. Very good question. Yeah, it's been a challenge, you know. I've been doing this for 25 years. It's been a great challenge. I've had many meetings that were a little bit scary, you know, with agencies, three-letter agencies, you can imagine, right? And You know, this is why I funded a nonprofit foundation. You know, I'm funding a for-profit as well. But, you know, at the end of the day, if I can get the support of the public, this is why I was talking like that, is if I can get the support of the public, then that's unstoppable, you know? If I don't have to go and look for money in, you know, support by corporation or by individual that wants to tie string to me. Many of the times that I lost funding is because I wouldn't allow strings to be attached, you know. So it's, you know, this is it's part of the plan. You know, I'm making sure, I assure you, there is things in place that make it so all the information is already available to the public. Thank you. Thank you.
Hola.
Hello.
Muchas gracias por tu trabajo, tu búsqueda de la verdad y
Thanks
es
for
para mí un honor estar aquí
your
delante
work
tuyo.
and your search of truth, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate.
Bien, yo vivo cerca del centro geográfico de Cataluña
I live close to the geographical center of Catalonia,
Yeah.
y desde hace un par de años he estado observando unos símbolos grabados en la piedra.
and since some years I've been observing symbols that are carved on rock.
Bien, este símbolo es la semilla de la vida, que
This-
conoces bien.
The symbol is the flower of life that you know very well.
Oh, wow. Really?
¿Verdad? Sí. Y,
Wow.
y he podido observar que es del siglo XVII, está grabado en las piedras de algunas casas.
And I could observe that from the 17th century, this was recorded in stones of some houses.
Y bien, me gustaría saber por qué lo hicieron, qué grupo de gente lo pudo haber hecho y por qué este conocimiento.
I would like to know why it could it be done, who could do it.
Very great. Oh, wow. I was going to ask you, is there pictures? Wow.
Es una pequeña muestra, hay más casas aún.
There's many more.
Oh, really? Did you know that, like, those look just like it? You know, on the ossuaries, which are the tombs that the Hebraic community, like the first century Jewish community, just after Emmanuel, which eventually got called Jesus, right? Just after Emmanuel, you know, some people cut that, you know, is this symbol on the ossuaries, right? Of all the, you know, anyway. So, I was asking you about this.
Me? What?
Yes.
When?
You should have known about this. What's wrong with you?
I don't know.
Oh, he's giving me the look. When I arrived, I said to Marco, I said, you know, Marco, I didn't have time to talk about this today, but the Knights Templar, we're looking for this object, the Covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, because they came out of the Cathars in the south of France, which was the lineage, right, of Mary Magdalena, the blood of Emmanuel, all the lineage and the children of Emmanuel, right, all the way back to the 1st century. It'd take a little time to explain why this is here, but let me just try to do it quickly. Emmanuel, the part that's not so well known about him is that he was part of the Essene community. Now they're starting to admit that his father and his mother were part of the Essene community. The Essene community that was near the Dead Sea in Qumran was there to host the Ark of the Covenant. It was the B plan. If the Ark was in trouble in the Temple of Solomon, it was taken out of the temple and brought to the Essene community where the high priests there were ready to receive it. And that's why there's a scroll that was found out of the Essene scroll that was called the Copper Scroll. In the Copper Scroll is a description of the Ark of the Covenant coming to the Essene community, right? And there was born Emmanuel in the vicinity of this very powerful object. This is, walking on water is a gravitational effect. When you have the ark, you can do all sorts of healings, including, bring things back to life. I tried it myself. Right? And, and Emmanuel made clear, you will do greater things than I, because in you, this knowledge, this technology would come back. The reason he was crucified is not so well understood, is because when he went to Jerusalem, where the ark was no longer there in the Temple of Solomon, he found the high priests were ego-tripping. And they took the power, they installed a pagan idol in the Temple of Solomon that was there to host the ark, and he threatened them to bring the ark back. And the high priest didn't want the ark back, because they had control now without the ark there. It had been gone for a long period of time already. And so that is why they plotted to get him crucified. They didn't want the ark back there. The Cathars knew about this because they had a direct knowledge, they had a direct lineage from the bloodline. And so they started the Knights Templar to look for the Ark of the Covenant because they knew that was the source of power. And the Knights Templars started the Crusades, going to Israel, going to Jerusalem, going to the Temple Mount where the Temple of Solomon used to be, thinking the Ark may be hidden under there somewhere, that they could find the Ark. So they looked in that region for many years. They couldn't find it. Eventually, I spare you the details, they went all the way down to Ethiopia, where the ark had been brought there by the Essene because they had to make sure it was safe. This is why there's a large Jewish community in Ethiopia. And then they found the ark there. There's lots of evidence that the Templars were there and that they found the ark and they brought it back to Europe. That's a whole other thing. When turns out that these objects, there's many of them, because the civilization that was there prior to our written history, the civilization that built the huge pyramids, that built all these crazy temples with these huge rocks, that civilization had many of these devices. They had direct contact with the extraterrestrials, they had many of these devices, and many of these devices were left all around the world. And Edgar Cayce, do you know about Edgar Cayce? The sleeping prophet? Study Edgar Cayce. He was very precise about many things, and he talked about where these objects were left. And he talked about the one, in Ethiopia, but he talked about the one that was under the water, that was in Bimini, that was creating the Bermuda Triangle. And then he said that there was one that was left in the mountains, in the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain. And yes. And this is why when I arrived here, I said to Marco, do you know anything about something strange? Some strange symbols, some strange evidence, something around that would, and so I'm glad to find this. So I believe from the research I've done, and I'm skipping a lot of details, that the Knights Templar actually found the one that was in the Pyrenees as well, and that they moved it around and that they were here and they built many things and they left. I'm glad to see that they left traces of the information in Spain about this object, about this power. So I would love it if you could give me some copies of these or scan them and email them to me. Oh, I can keep those?
Sí.
You have copies? Yes.
Sí, sí.
Oh, wonderful.
Tengo los originales. Si quieres, estás invitado, te lo puedo enseñar en persona.
I have the originals. If you want, you're invited. I can show it in person.
I would love that. So I'll have to make that happen maybe next time I come. Are they very far?
100 kilómetros.
10 kilometers.
Oh, wow. Is it getting shorter over there?
Así que hay más.
Thank you very much.
Te voy a mandar por correo más fotos.
I will send them to you by email.
Okay.
Cerca de Solsona.
Cerca de Solsona.
Thank you so much.
En Elche también está lo mismo. En Elche también está lo mismo.
Sí, sí, sí. Claro.
Hola, buenas tardes. Que en Elche, de donde nosotros venimos, en la provincia de Alicante,
In Elche, from where we come from, in the province of Alicante,
también está la misma geometría
there's the same geometry
de la semilla de la vida.
with the flower of life.
Y es toda la época de los romanos,
This came from
De la
the
época
Roman
de-
epoch.
templos de la época de Julio César, César Augustos, que eran grandes
Temples
iniciados.
from when Julio César, Julius Caesar, and Augustus.
Tenían este conocimiento y tenían esa figura que tú has hecho de cuadrados y tetraedros. Está en un templo enorme lleno de geometría sagrada.
They had this knowledge and the figures that you were showing full of sacred geometry symbols.
Wow.
Y corrobora que a lo largo de este planeta todas las grandes civilizaciones doradas han mantenido el conocimiento.
¿Repites?
Que eso corrobora también que en general en este planeta todas las grandes
So
civilizaciones
this shows that all great civilizations in this planet had this kind of knowledge.
han mantenido el conocimiento.
Yeah, well, so that would predate the Knight Templar, right? That would
Estás
predate-
invitado.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying.
You're invited.
This information was there prior to the Templars coming, but the Templars probably knew what they were looking for, so they follow all the symbols, all the information. That's probably how they found the one that was here in Spain. So it'd be interesting to try to map it all out and see if we can find it again, if they left it here, or at least find where it was holding. There must be a temple somewhere, there must be a chamber somewhere where it was put. Now, in the chamber where it was put when the ark was at the Qumran community near the Dead Sea, that chamber was found. The real Indiana Jones, Wendell Jones, the Indiana Jones was inspired by a real archaeologist, Wendell Jones, which was the archaeologist that follow the copper scroll of the Dead Sea Scrolls that describe where they put the ark, right, in the caves of Qumran. And he found the cave. And when he opened the cave, NASA was there to verify and everything. When he opened the cave, there was a strange blue light that was glowing in the cave. It's described in the report by NASA. And it's really interesting because in the report by NASA, it says, it just blew my mind when I saw that, because it says this is the same strange blue light we found when we opened some of the chambers in the pyramids in South America or in Mexico. So that actually places the ark as well in Mexico and South America, or Mexico at least. So, you know, because when this object is in full power and you leave it long enough in one region of space-time, it leaves an imprint, right? And until that imprint is disturbed, it can stay fairly coherent. So there might be a place like that somewhere around here. I would like to go and find it.
¿Sí?
Okay.
Primero quiero agradecerte muchísimo tu trabajo.
Thanks a lot for your work.
Thank you.
Conozco ya 4 niños de entre 10 y 15 años que están muy enfadados contigo.
I know like about 4 kids of
entre
10 kids from 4 to 10 years old that are really mad at you.
Enfadados.
There's like 10 kids of ages from 4 to 10 or to 6 that are really mad at you.
10 to 15.
10 to 15 that are mad at me.
Muy enfadados porque todo lo que tú explicas es contrario a lo que les explican cada día en la escuela.
Because all that you explain is just the opposite as what they're receiving every day at school.
Yes.
Entonces, quiero hacerte una pregunta para ellos, porque son nuestros hijos y nuestros nietos de futuro.
Then I want to ask you a question for these kids.
Yes.
¿Puedes explicarnos o enseñarnos a explicar los agujeros negros para los niños de 10 a 15 años, por ejemplo?
Can you help us to explain black holes to kids of that age, please?
Y otra pregunta.
How do you explain black holes to kids of that age? Is that what she asked? Oh.
Otra pregunta muy parecida, aunque muy
Another
distinta,
question.
es la importancia que tiene la geometría para nuestra salud y evolución. También necesitamos explicarlo a estos chicos.
We also need to explain the importance of geometry in our health.
And evolution.
Under evolution.
Yeah.
¿Cómo explicamos esto a nuestros niños?
So how do we explain this to our kids?
En 4 palabras.
In 4 words.
Okay. Number 1.
The whole.
You take the kids out of school. Or at least put them in schools that are alternative, that, you know, allow kids to be creative. Because, you know, at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems in a civilization is education. Education, the way we have it today, is not the solution, is the problem. Right? Why? Because children instinctively know. You know, when you teach a 7-year-old, the universe, you know, is came out of a big bang, the first thing they ask, where did that come from? Right?
Es más fácil a los 7 años que a los 15 o a los 14.
It's easier when they're 7 than when they're 14 or 15.
Ah, yes. By that time, a lot of damage has been done. So, children have knowledge to give to us, but our educational system doesn't allow that. We assume they don't know nothing, and we got to teach them. Education, true education, should give the resources to the kid so that they can, make their own decision. This is what we think. This is how we came up with this solution. This is the math we're using. We don't know if it's right. What do you think? Instead of saying, this is the fact. And if you don't repeat that fact, you will fail. You must be a sheep. You must follow all the other sheep over the cliff, right? Now, thank you. So how do you explain a black hole to a child? Well, I think you say to him, think about it. You could cut this piece of bread into a smaller piece of bread. And you cut this piece of smaller bread into a smaller one, and a smaller one, and a smaller one, and a smaller one. And then you could say to the child, do you think we can cut this to infinity? And the child will probably say, yeah, you can continue cutting. So then you can say, well, then that means there's infinite amount of pieces of bread in this bread. So if there's infinite amount of pieces, there's infinite amount of weight, infinite amount of mass. This bread must be a black hole. Right? Or at least made of black holes. Right? So I think using examples like that, it has to do with the geometry too, Look at the geometry of a flower. Look at the geometry of the branches of a tree. See all the branches of your hand, right? This part is 1.618 smaller than this part. This part is 1.618 smaller than this part. This part is 1.618 smaller than this part. This to this, and this to this, my arm to my... Why do you think that it's always the same ratio? Look at a flower, you get the same ratio. Do you think there's a fundamental geometry? Maybe there's a fundamental geometry that makes all this, right? Using nature. Helping the child observe, look at the world around them. Instead of drawing geometry on a piece of paper, doing geometry outside in the world, looking at the way planets orbit the sun. Look, there's geometric octaves, things like that. And giving them a sense that nature has these fundamental principles in it, I think is very important. And that's lost in our education because we try to reduce everything into some conceptual notion instead of the natural world.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Hello again. I got a conflict with the concept of vacuum because what I can't understand is how can we measure the distance in vacuum? Because if we have one thing here, one thing here and another thing here, and there's vacuum between them, they should be touching each other. And if not, you can just make a zoom.
One atom here, one atom here. We have vacuum in between.
Yes.
How are they touching?
because if there's vacuum is empty space, so there's nothing between them, so they should be touching.
No, vacuum is full.
Ay, que no os he escuchado. Ay, que no os he escuchado.
I know this is very specific, very fundamental thing, but my brain can't make that up because I'm thinking about vacuum, and is vacuum is empty? It's
Okay,
empty
I'm going to
space.
help you with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So think of the vacuum as a pool of water, right? But you don't know there's water because there's water everywhere. So there's nowhere where there's no water. So you think there's water everywhere. So it's not anywhere that you can say there's no water. So you think there's nothing. It's just water. We call it vacuum, right? So in the pool, there's a little vortex. It's called a soliton in physics, right? A soliton wave, a little vortex. And if you look at this vortex, there could be another vortex over here. When you see, because you don't know there's water, you say, oh, there's an atom, and oh, there's an atom over here. But in fact, what you're looking at are two dynamics of the vacuum itself. There's not vacuum and no vacuum. There's just vacuum. And when the vacuum is spinning in a little vortex, they say, oh, here's something. Not knowing that that something is everywhere because the vortex in the pool could not exist without the water. Right? So what we see as matter is just a dynamic of the water. It's a dynamic of the vacuum itself. It's a dynamic of the ether, you know. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes y
Hello.
gracias por este día tan vacío. Diría lleno, pero...
Thank you for this vacuum day.
Y bueno, tengo dos preguntitas, una un poco más técnica, que es de esta mañana, que hay un...
I have two questions. One is a little bit more technical, that's from this morning.
Sí, no entiendo bien, no he comprendido bien cómo un centímetro cúbico de vacío puede estar tan lleno.
I really didn't understand how a centimeter cube of space can be so full.
Well, okay. Well, let's see. Imagine that you were extremely large, right? I don't mean fat, but you know, like very, very big being. That you were so big, you were outside this local universe we call the universe, right? Right? So now you're extremely big, and you're looking at our universe from that size. You would see our universe and you'd say, it's just one thing. It's one kind of ball of light, little ball of, you know, look like an atom to you, right? But if you jump in there, you go, oh my God, there's all these stars and galaxies, billions of stars, billions of galaxies, da 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 da. Because you're looking from a different scale. Same thing with the vacuum. Right? You're looking from a scale at the vacuum where you're seeing like a lot of space. But if you look closely, really, really close, it's oscillating. Lots of energy is occurring. A lot of vibration are occurring in that space. You see? It's a question of scale.
¿Era aquello que se llamaba Planck o...?
It's that you call Planck's distance?
Planck distance, that's right. Which is billions of times smaller than an atom. So to you, it doesn't exist. You don't see it. You can't experience it. It's oscillating so small, so far away from your experience, you don't know it's there.
O sea, el vacío realmente no es vacío, es compuesto por Plancks.
So, space is not vacuum, it's not space, it's composed by Planck's distances.
Space is oscillating at the Planck's distance, meaning it's not composed of something, it's just that it's vibrating at frequencies that are very, very, very energetic, very small, like very short frequency. Right.
Vale, ok. Bueno, no. Voy a la otra pregunta más curiosa, más...
I'm going to the other question more.
Okay.
Y gracias por tu esfuerzo.
Thank you for your trying.
Antes has dicho que el 12 es importante y lo relacionabas con la música.
You said before that 12 was really important and you kind of took it to music.
Sí, y bueno, la música es una de las cosas que solo ocurren en la cabeza, ¿no? O sea,
And music is one of the things that only happen in our head.
One of the things that what?
That happen inside of our head.
No se da en la naturaleza como un agujero negro, un árbol.
It's not given in nature like a black hole or something like that.
Not quite. No. Like the sun makes music. The moon makes music.
Vale.
They all oscillate, they all vibrate, they all have fundamental resonance frequency, right? We can actually record the sun and record planets. They make very specific sounds. In ancient time, it was called the music of the spheres, right? So nature does oscillate, and so it's a kind of music. Right? If you heard all of the oscillations in the universe together, it might sound like a symphony.
Vale. ¿Y el tema de que sean 12, como los 12 tonos?
What about the 12 as the 12 tones?
¿Puede tener alguna relación significativa? No sé.
Can it have a significant relationship?
Yes. It's not my field of expertise. Music is not my field of expertise. But in ancient time, especially in the Mayan time, there was 12 tones to the scale, that were in like harmonic relationship to it, and then was renormalized by John Sebastian Bach, I believe. To the diachronic scale. But I think that there's a fundamental natural scale of tones in the universe that function with the geometry. I haven't studied it enough to identify exactly what those tones are, but they're most likely very important because in the technology I'm building, it is a frequency against a radius that makes the scale. So when I build the technology, I look at the scale and I calculated if there's all the data points on the scale, right? Well, if I'm building a technology, I gotta make sure that the frequency and the size of the sphere fits on the scale if I want it to work. You understand? And that's how I can mathematically calculate how I need to build the technology. My pleasure. Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing lecture.
Thank you.
First of all, I was looking on your website the other day and I was like, damn, I want to become a member now. Like, let me in. Pay. Where do I pay?
Right, I appreciate. Thank you. We're really working as hard as we can to actually get that going. It's taking us some time.
Okay, I'm like, watching my email.
Thank you.
Secondly, just to backtrack a bit. When I saw you in Malaga last year, you talked about anti-gravity and about devices that you've had preview of.
Right.
And I wondered if you could talk any more about that. Not really,
yes.
or maybe.
Well, let's say that, there is technologies that are being invented by different inventors around the world, including some labs that are, more official labs, but as well many inventors that are getting gravitational results from these kind of spinning devices, spinning large high-density magnetic fields.
Yeah.
And so, it's advancing very rapidly. The tricky part is to be able to release it into the world. And, that's on its way. But, there's not much more I can say about that. That is, like, some of the results are very, very exciting. You're talking about things literally lifting up, In some cases, devices lifting up and going through the roof of laboratories, last time seen going towards the sun, So, there is technologies on their way to do this. It's a little bit tricky, but we're getting very, very close. We're approaching that time. And, hey, I never finished that story about the Vatican. This is the first time the Vatican agrees with me. The Vatican is talking about it. They're releasing stuff about, saying it's okay to believe in extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
Christians can believe in extraterrestrial. They're like,
thank God.
It's like, thanks, But, they're saying they probably don't have original sin. You don't have to run out there with your Bible and try to convert them. They're already saved, And, all these governments are releasing their UFO files and all this. The reason is that these guys know they're on their way back. Why are they on their way back? Because we're on the way to them.
Yeah.
So it's a meeting.
Yeah.
We're approaching that time where we're going to lift off. And when we lift off, we're entering a larger community. And, we have to kind of play nice.
Yeah.
And so I think this meeting is about to happen. And so, but we have to make our part. We have to come up with it. We have to understand it. In the earlier evolution that was there prior to the cataclysm, that technology was given to man. And it worked for a while, but then it created problems because we didn't have the maturity to understand what we were dealing with. So this time, we have to gain that maturity. So, it's getting very, very close now. Very close.
How far away do you think we are from having that kind of stuff, available?
It's in the next few years, in the next 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
For people to actually experience?
Yeah, for people to actually experience that level of technology. It's not going to be available right away. Like, you won't right away be able to buy a car with a red button that like makes it lift off, right? But experimental crafts will become, not available, but like publicly known. Tests will be conducted. It won't be long after that when you get to the airport, it won't be tarmacs, there won't be runways. It will be a hovering ship that you're getting on. And it won't be long after that you will be able to go to the airport, get on one of those hovering ships, and go and orbit Jupiter for the weekend.
Sounds like fun.
Because it's not a big deal when you have gravitational drives to go and travel around your solar system. It's just a question of a few minutes to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Second thing, have you heard of Valery Uvarov?
I heard that name somewhere, but
Like the Russian sort of director of the ufology for the National Science Academy or whatever.
Okay, for the Russian Science Academy.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Right.
Security Academy or Science Academy. He wrote a book, and he's done some interviews with Camelot, Project Camelot, about regarding the pyramids. That they've been building pyramids recently in Russia, and he mentioned something which was that like a power source put in the pyramid creates a whole special effect, which resonated when you talked about the ark being put in the pyramid. And he talked about like a crystal, like he constructed a pyramid to certain specifications in his home, and he placed a crystal at a certain angle or something like that. In the middle of the night, it started glowing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's written a book about it as well. I don't know what it's called, but it's on the internet. You can download it in English for free.
Okay, can you send me a link?
Yeah, sure.
I would like that.
Will do.
Yeah, I mean, you will get those effects. You get the right geometry, you get the right, material in the geometry. The reason why crystals do that, I mean, we use crystals in all of our technology. There's reasons, right? It's because the geometry of the molecule is a tetrahedral molecule, and so it interacts with the structure of the vacuum, you see, very nicely. And that's why crystals have this special power that, people talk about. But in the spiritual communities, they haven't figured out it's not like some raw crystal you take out of the dirt and, put on an altar. I mean, that has some power, but it's minimal. If you actually activate it and if you grow it in a laboratory so it's extremely pure and, it's a little more technical. But when you get it just right, you put the right ingredients together, you'll start downloading some energy from the vacuum. And like I showed today, just a little teeny weeny bit of interaction with the vacuum energy will produce pretty large effects. Yeah, very large effects. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Intentad ser breves en las preguntas. Sí. Sé que queda mucha gente. A lo mejor queréis utilizar parte del tiempo de saludar a Nassim para seguir haciendo preguntas. Okay.
We are in direct contact with Valery Uvarov. If you are interested, at the end of the event, we can talk.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you. You got unplugged.
Gracias por las 8 horas de hoy y las 27.000 que nos hemos pegado en casa cada uno con tus conocimientos.
Thank you for the 8 hours of today and for the 27,000 hours that every one of us looked at you at home.
Pues una cosa es que si todos estos conocimientos se saben o se sabían desde todos los grandes imperios, ¿no? O
If this knowledge
culturas.
has been known for that long of a time,
Yeah.
Si se saben y se ocultan o simplemente hoy en día no están disponibles. Y si aparte de que se oculten, se están utilizando en algún sitio.
do you think that they hide them, or that maybe we simply lost the knowledge, or that maybe they are hidden and that they're using them someplace?
I think that many of those things. I think that the advanced communities, what I call the Galactic Federation, you know, after the last cataclysm, said, okay, we need to take away this technology from these people because they need to grow. So I think many of these devices were removed and taken away and hidden. The ones that were left were hidden, and then there was a certain control on where they went and how they were moved. For instance, I think there was a certain amount of control about, you know, the one of those devices being taken out of Egypt. When Moses took it out of Egypt, that was a way to like make sure that the knowledge wouldn't be lost, and as well to make sure that the device was used properly. And then that was taken out to Jerusalem. And anyway, so many of these devices were still around, but yes, they've been hidden. They've been kept away from us because we were not ready to have this level of power.
¿Y ahora mismo se están utilizando? ¿Hay alguno en funcionamiento aquí?
Is there some of these in functioning right now? Like
There is. Some of them are functioning. I believe the one that's under Mecca at the, you know, the Kaaba is functioning. The one that's in Ethiopia is functioning. The one that used to produce the effect in the Bermuda Triangle is no longer functioning, but was functioning until fairly recently. It's no longer functioning because the government has, you know, put a whole bunch, tons and tons of material on top of it to get it to stop, because they were trying to control it and they couldn't control it, so they got it to stop. I think there's one in the mountains in South America that's functioning. There may be one in China that's still functioning. So yeah, I think there's a bunch of them that are still going, but I think they're getting weak because, you know, you can charge them and get them to spin and go for a few thousand years, but eventually they run down and you have to charge them again.
Dos cosas muy rápidas ahora.
Too quick stuff.
Got a whole list of questions.
Yeah, I see.
¿En qué afecta la masa de agua a la rotación de la Tierra?
Does the quantity of water in the Earth affect its rotation?
Yes. Yes, it does. Like, for instance, when there was the tsunami, right, a few years ago in Asia, the tsunami produced a change in the Earth axis, a small change, but yeah, the quantity and the position of the water does affect the rotation of the Earth. Why did you ask that?
Porque hay mucha agua aquí y parece ser que fuera en los otros planetas no hay.
Because there's lots of water here and in the other planets there's not.
¿Quién la puso aquí?
Who put it here?
Then what?
Who put here the water?
Who put the water here?
In the Earth.
That is a good question. Well, you know, one of the reasons we have water on this planet, there's other planets with water. You know, some of the moons of Jupiter have water. I mean, there's frozen water on Mars, you know, there's frozen water on the moon, you know, there's There's water everywhere we look. Actually, 15 years ago, when I was talking about life in other places in the universe, scientists always would tell me, there's probably very little chance for life to be somewhere else in the universe because there's not so much water in the universe. But since then, we've got really good telescope to look for spectral lines of water, and actually we can't find any place in the universe where there's no water. They're finding water even between galaxies, just floating around in intergalactic space. So, there's water everywhere. It depends in which state the water is. Actually, did you know that water comes out of the sun as well? Like water comes out of sunspots, So actually water is being produced everywhere. There's water everywhere. It's very common. And the reason why this planet accumulates the water is because it's in the right position, for liquid water to exist. But on many other planets, it might just be frozen water, ice.
Y dices que se viaja a través de los agujeros negros, ¿no? Del agujero negro del centro del Sol al agujero negro del centro de la Tierra.
You say that through the black holes of different, like the sun or the earth, we can go across them and travel?
Yes.
Que es un sistema para viajar que utilizan los ovnis, ¿no? Los UFO.
That it's like a system that UFOs use.
Yes.
O sea, que
This is why, for instance, in Mexico, you see, or near volcanoes, there's a lot of UFO sightings. Because the volcano is like a direct vortex to the singularity at the center of the Earth. Or, the vortices we call sunspot on the sun. Some of them are 13 times, 14 times the size of the Earth. You can channel through.
Y en ese viaje, por lo mismo que hay varias escalas, cuando un ovni entra en la Tierra y mide 1 metro de diámetro, si va hasta el Sol, aumenta su tamaño en la escala.
So, when one of these UFOs, like, pues, como que cuando se acerca a... Vale. So when you travel, for example, through the black hole of the Earth to a scale that's much bigger, does the ship like grow big or shrink or something like that?
When it goes
From a level like the Earth through a black hole like the Sun, towards a black hole like the Sun, like it's very different size. Does the ship go big, or is there some change in scale?
No, you have to think about it as information going to singularity, transferring from one singularity to another, right? So it's like you're entering the net. Information, all the information is here, then all the information is here, then all the information is here. But the scale at which you're entering the black hole is important. If your ship is the size of Jupiter, you cannot go through the Earth, right? Because you're going to have an issue. So then you go through the sun, right? But if your ship is small, then you can go through the Earth to go through the sun and so on.
Is for that. Si las naves que se están viendo cerca del Sol tienen el tamaño de Júpiter, no es que cuando llegan aquí se hacen pequeñitas, ¿no?
No le he escuchado nada. Si todos habláis, no puedo.
Lo que digo es que las naves que se supone que se están viendo cerca del Sol son grandes como Júpiter o la Tierra, tal. Esas no podrían entrar aquí si no se hacen más pequeñas, ¿no? O sea, que no entran.
No.
Gracias.
Thank you, Nassim, to be
Thank you.
so patient. Well, there is people waiting, so I'll try to be fast. because this is very complicated. Just really want to know, when you got your artifacts and you put the crystals on, and you had all the structure just going on, if you felt a link or connection through that energy, like a feedback.
With this technology?
Yes.
Yes, I did. I didn't talk about that, but yes. When this thing started, you know, I could actually, and I can still, connect with it, mentally connect with it, like, experience it, and then spin the field up or spin it down. So yeah, it interacts with your consciousness. Eventually that would be the way you actually fly the ship. You would just think of moving in a certain direction and the ship will go.
Well, I was thinking in health, basically, because in the meaning of health, of healing, if you're going to give these crystals,
yes,
for the people, it's important to have a personal touch with the crystal,
right,
and not the communication to the crystal through other people, because that. You know what I mean? No, I mean that for healing. I mean if you're going to sell these crystals, churches,
yes.
It's a personal work through the crystal.
Yes, it's a feedback with the crystal. Yeah. So, and actually I was a little bit able to measure that like if I take the crystal and I put it in your hand, it pulses at a certain rate. And if I put it in somebody else's hand, all of a sudden it pulses at a different rate because it's interacting with you, so it's harmonizing with you. And this is why this is completely different technology than most of the technology you get out there, because the technology you get out there typically imposes a pulse on you. But in this case, it's just reinforcing your natural pulse. It's, and bringing it back to its original state, to its original blueprint.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hola. Antes hablaste de la memoria que en la zona de la espalda.
You were talking about memory before. No vayas muy rápido que si no me pierdo.
Vale. Bueno, la memoria que en la zona de la espalda conecta con la estructura del espacio-tiempo.
You said that de la espalda.
Sí, eso creo que entendí.
No lo he escuchado. That the memory of your back connects to
con la estructura del espacio-tiempo
to the structure of space-time.
Y cómo se puede, cambiando la impronta de la memoria para liberar traumas y para así también poder modificar el futuro. ¿Podrías ampliar algo más en este sentido?
So, how can you change your memory to change, cómo cambiar la memoria para poder cambiar?
Sí, cómo cambiar la impronta de la memoria que tenemos acumulada de generaciones pasadas. Hablaste algo en este sentido y cómo esto puede liberar traumas y liberar energía para, cambiando el presente, poder cambiar el futuro.
Si me la haces en partes, creo que lo conseguiré. Venga, va, la impronta otra vez.
Did you answer the question?
No.
Perdón.
Venga, va.
Cómo cambiando la impronta de la memoria.
How if we change the memory of the past, of our past generations, okay?
Exacto. Se puede cambiar los traumas que pueden estar enganchados al pasado para poder modificar el futuro.
Can we change the traumas that are linked to the past?
To make money as a translator.
Yeah, that's not my job.
Try that again. Okay. So,
why she's asking that if we can have these memories of the past, how can we change them?
okay, so these memories are embedded on the structure of space-time, right? And they're all linked through all the way to your present. Right now, your singularity is connected to all this information. So you have access to all the information. This is why your genes and all your memory is actually present. So you have access to that information. So you can go with your current memory imprint, you can go through that set of information, change it, and that will change the future from that moment, which is your present, and change your present, which will change your future. So, you know, how? With you going to singularity, with you going inside towards your singularity, that's your link to all that information. When you go there, you can make that change. I actually done it to change an aspect of my body, and it worked. Meaning, I actually found the gene through the memory imprint, through generation to generation, changed it, and it changed my body in the present. I was witnessed. Yeah. How did you know? Do you know about that?
¿Y cómo conectas con tu singularidad? ¿A través de la meditación?
And how do you connect with your singularity? Through meditation?
Yes, you do. I mean, meditation is a tool to connect with your singularity. You already is connected with your singularity. It's just that you become conscious of that connection so that you can start to modify what you need to modify to get into a higher level of coherency. So meditation is a good tool. So any technique of meditation that helps you go inwards towards that point of stillness is a good technique of meditation. Yeah.
Hablaste de que es tiempo de que salgamos, de que la humanidad salga al exterior. ¿También podrías ampliar un poquito esto? ¿Qué significa exactamente?
¿Que salga de dónde?
Oh, by the way, I just want to let you know, there's other, there is catalyst. You understand catalyst? Catalyst that can help as well find that point of singularity, right? Some catalysts could be peak experiences in sporting events. Other catalysts, I do in meditation. So peak experiences in or taking certain, hallucinogenic plants, like the ancient people did that. They would go through level of initiation, they'd take certain plants to help you connect with your singularity, or go in the vicinity of the Ark of the Covenant. If you have one handy, like you can, get close to one, then you will certainly connect with your memory imprint. Yeah. So, yeah.
Sí, dos preguntas cortitas. Bueno, cortas para hacer. Dijiste que es tiempo de que la humanidad, de que estamos preparados o deberíamos estar preparados para salir al exterior. ¿Qué significa
We have to be prepared, like to go to the exterior. You were talking before about that it's time for humanity to get up and go to the exterior.
Do we have to get prepared? Yes, you should. You should get prepared. And one way to prepare is to first of all, be able to visualize that this is happening, to experience it, to know it's happening. Second is to, I've started to talk about this publicly. In the Galactic Federation, there is a program. Here on Earth we have programs like Save People in Africa. There's a program in the Galactic Federation, Save a Human. They feel bad about us, And So when people in the Galactic Federation, and there's a lot of people, they participate in Save a Human program, they donate a ship. So there's a ship for every single human on this planet. There's a ship for every single human on this planet. And you can call that ship. So I suggest you start to call that ship. And if it shows up, don't run in the other direction screaming, because that kind of defeats the purpose. So, we are a ship, but you know, it's very practical when you put your ship in your car ship to go, you know, a few hundred kilometers. Well, if you're trying to go across the galaxy, you need, you know, the larger ship to put your ship in so that you can go over there. So, you know, so that's available to you. Actually, you know, the crystals I'm going to start getting out are good communicators to communicate with your chip. I tested that not like a few weeks ago, where I charged some of these crystals and I gave it to a woman that had never seen a UFO. And I said, call your ship with them. You can call your ship with those. So one night she went outside and called the ship, and it showed up. So, yeah. So, you know, it is available. They are there. They are listening. So part of getting ready is actually realizing we're part of a larger community. And that larger community has been around for a long time, and they're trying to help. They're really trying to help. And all the stories about the bad ETs that want to take over the humans, that's all crap. Actually, those are stories manufactured, many of them by governments, to scare people so that they can justify the fact that they've been shooting at them since the Second World War, or maybe even the First World War. So, you know, because, you know, if there's bad ETs out there that wanted to take us over, it would be over in seconds. You know, it'd be like done, right? And the other thing is that there's a fail-safe in this universe because it's a feedback. So if you're a destructive race, you don't make it very far. You might make it to your local moon, but even then, you know. But you're just going to self-destruct because nature will eliminate what doesn't work. So any civilization that reaches higher levels of consciousness, you know, is a civilization that's able to travel across large distances. These civilizations are peaceful. They don't have any reason to war. They don't have any reason to want to take over planets. There's billions of them, right? They don't need little planet Earth. These concepts come from people that are very egocentric. They think, oh, we're so great. They need us. You know? No. They're trying to help. Right? Yeah. Thank you.
Vamos a ir, como todavía queda bastante gente, intentad hacer una pregunta por persona.
I don't mind, you know,
Primero,
I can do this all night, but we're probably going to get kicked out, right?
Well,
You're going to kick us out.
maybe.
Yeah. I don't know what you said, but...
Bueno, primero darte las gracias por el día de hoy, más que nada por el día que nos has hecho pasar a todos.
Thanks for the day of today.
Thank you.
Y bueno, quería comentarte una cosa, porque yo tengo un conflicto conmigo mismo ahora mismo.
I want to ask you something because I have a conflict with myself right now.
Yo vengo...
Ask me something that what?
I want to ask you something because I have a conflict with myself
Okay.
right now.
Vengo de un instituto muy pequeño de Mallorca.
I come from a very little institute of Mallorca.
Y ahí si te llevas mal con un profesor, te llevas mal con todos los profesores.
And there, if you don't agree or don't like or like don't treat well with a teacher, that happens with the rest of the teachers. You know,
So
if that happens with one teacher, it happens like with the rest of the teachers.
Okay.
Y da la casualidad que con el profesor que no me llevo bien es el profesor de historia.
And the teacher that I don't like is the history teacher.
He's a history teacher, yes.
Bueno, sí. Este año lo vuelvo a tener y volveremos a tocar el tema de las pirámides, que fue por lo que discutimos.
This year, I'll have him again. I have this teacher again, and he's like going to talk about the pyramids, and like we argued because of this.
Yes.
Y lo que no sé hacer es si volver a discutir con él, porque sé que está diciendo una mentira a todos mis amigos.
And I don't know if continue arguing with him, because I know he's telling a lie to all of us.
Y acabar otra vez en la sala de profesores, o bien tragarme lo que dice el libro y aprobar la asignatura.
I don't know if to kill all the teachers or... ¿Qué era lo tercero?
O si me trago lo que me dice el libro y apruebo la asignatura.
Or if to simply repeat what the book says and pass the class.
It's a sad thing, isn't it? Well, you have, I know that the teacher thinks of you as the young person, right? But you have translation, you can understand? Okay. You have to be the wise one. You have to be the mature one. You have to be the one that has compassion, because you're dealing with somebody that doesn't understand, that is not aware, right? It's like dealing with children, right? And so you have to actually, arguing with him is no good. It won't work, right? What you have to do is accept that this is his reality, accept that this is his beliefs, that you have different beliefs. Now, if they need you to write on this piece of paper his beliefs, right, then you can write on this piece of paper his beliefs. They don't have to be yours, right? So that they give you a test, they give you a mark, right? The mark is marking the fact that you can repeat his beliefs, right? Not yours, right?
Y bueno, le quería decir una cosa, rápido.
Venga.
Que hay en una red social, es sobre una red social de jóvenes sobre todo. Hay una página solo dedicada a él, en la que solo en Baleares hay más de 2.500 jóvenes que le apoyan.
There's like a social network in the Balear Islands, Balearic, and there's like 2,500 people in that, and it's about you.
Que si crea esta impresión solo en Baleares, en España y en todo el mundo debe haber seguro que millones de jóvenes que le apoyan igual que yo.
Otra vez, que me han distraído por aquí.
¿Qué digo? Si solo en Baleares hay más de 2.000 personas 2.000 jóvenes que le ayudan, en el mundo seguro que hay millones de jóvenes que le están apoyando como yo ahora. Y que la gente como él es la que ahorra un buen futuro para nuestro planeta.
Like, if people repeat this all along the planet, like many social networks are created, like dedicated to you, eventually there will be changes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your help. Thank you. I appreciate. That's what we need. But remember, when you get opposition, you have to be the wise one. Because you know, and they don't.
Muchas gracias. Lo primero es un honor estar
Thank you.
aquí y
It's a
poder
honor being here.
escucharte.
Thank you.
A ver, llevamos todo el día escuchando sobre el giro. Todo
We've
lo que has
been all day
explicado,
long listening about spin.
Spin, yeah.
el doble donut que giraba, nuestra singularidad que hace el mismo efecto, las espirales, todo gira. Entonces, nosotros giramos con el planeta, con la galaxia, pero realmente los seres humanos normalmente nos movemos en línea o nos estamos quietos.
She's saying that everything's spinning, like from galaxies, everything, but that here humans, like where's that spinning us? Like we move in straight lines and...
Pero
But
normalmente nosotros caminamos en línea o nos quedamos quietos. Pero yo soy bailarina de ballet
I'm a ballet dancer,
Yes.
y llevo toda la vida girando.
and I've been all my life like spinning.
Yes.
Sobre mí misma.
Yes, yes, good.
Eso.
Yes.
Y yo me pregunto si girar sobre nosotros mismos a determinada velocidad tiene algún efecto sobre nuestro cuerpo.
The question is if the spinning on top of ourselves produces some kind of effect on our body.
Absolutely. This is why the spinning dervishes, you know, is a form of meditation. A way to connect to the center is the dervishes. You know about spinning dervishes? Yeah, they spin for hours and hours and hours and they get into that place, you know.
Derviches.
Yeah.
Como los derviches.
Yeah, and that's from, you know, Rumi, right? Rumi. And so, you know, but I want to make sure you understand, you have never, ever, 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 ever walked in a straight line. Yes. Right. Because you're on even if you did a very good job, you're on the surface of a planet.
Sí, se lo he dicho, pero no lo ha traducido.
And
Encima las culpas a mí, ¿no? She said it to me, but I didn't translate it.
and okay.
Estoy muy cansado ya, muy cansado.
Una cosa más.
And the spin, and although you say humans are not spinning, every atom you're made of is spinning at the speed of light. So you're spinning right now, like seriously spinning, right? It's just that because they're all arranged together in such a way so that you look like you're not spinning, that is not the case. You are spinning at the speed of light right now. You're a little light being spinning, right?
Pero si además giro a determinada velocidad, ya dices que sí tiene un efecto, pero normalmente la Tierra, bueno, normalmente no siempre, la Tierra gira en un sentido, la galaxia gira en un sentido, pero yo puedo girar en los dos.
She's saying that like the Earth spins one way, galaxies spin one way, but I can spin both.
¿Hay alguna diferencia en el efecto que pueda causar en un ser humano?
Is there some difference in the effect that this can cause in a human being?
Yes, there is. And if you want to have a most positive effect, depending if you're in the north hemisphere or in the south hemisphere, you want to spin in the correct direction.
¿Cuál es la dirección correcta?
What's the right direction?
Look at hurricanes in the south, in the north hemisphere, and spin in the same direction. And look at typhoons in the southern hemisphere and spin in that same direction. Spin in the natural Coriolis direction that nature utilizes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yo no sé si seguir, ¿eh?
Hello, Nassim.
Hello.
It's good to be here. And,
Thank you. It's good to have you here.
much luck in your investigation.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, I have this idea in my head. I'm listening to you for the last hour, and I'm thinking, does it need to be a machine? Does it need to be a device? Can it be that we can build, that we can be a singularity device ourselves? Does it need to be something out of ourselves?
You are a singularity device.
But you relate your work plenty to natural sources, like you look for the way nature moves, nature happens itself. Can it be that we can find a natural singularity device that can act as a motor, like a horse takes us, like in a car?
Okay, so, this is what I was saying. I get spiritual people calling me saying, we don't need no stinking technology. And I'm like, you're talking to me on your cell phone driving your car, right? I hear this argument all the time. It's like, the external world and the internal world are both crucial. One is feeding back on the other. You cannot eliminate one. They're always both there. The technology is just an expression of a higher level of consciousness. So for instance, you can levitate because you have a singularity. You are one of those devices. You can levitate. You might have to work really hard at it, though. Meditate for like 25 years, or maybe meditate for a few lifetimes, and maybe you'll start levitating. Or maybe you do it, like I levitated a few times, but every time I didn't do it on purpose. I was sleeping, right? And I was caught off the ground, right? But it's not practical. For instance, you're just not gonna get the whole planet to levitate themselves off, right? The other thing is that you might be able to levitate yourself off the surface, but if you levitate yourself out of the atmosphere, you're gonna have other issues, like breathing, in empty space. Well, not empty, but like without oxygen is gonna be a problem, right? So there's all sorts. The technology, the external world is a fundamental principle of nature. It's not an artificial thing. Technology is not an artificial thing. It is a creation of creativity. It's the creation of a universe learning about itself. Oh, look, I can take this element, and I can take this element, and I can put them together, and I can do this, and that allows me to do this, and so on. Our level of consciousness has increased dramatically because we have technology. If we didn't have technology, you would be out there in the woods with a stick trying to get your next supper. You wouldn't have no time for philosophical ideas about if we need technology or not, right? So what I'm saying is that the technology I'm discussing is a technology that is much more harmonically linked with you. The reason people have a sense, oh, I don't want technology, is because the technology that we've experienced so far is very rough, it's very precarious, it's very male-oriented, it's very destructive, right? Because we only have 150 years of technological advancement. It's very short, right? Now we're getting into levels of technology that are becoming much more harmonious with us, like the crystals I'm talking about and so on. These are tools for our consciousness. I assure you, if I land in your backyard with a ship, a technological ship, and I put you in it, I pick you up, and I bring you in the galaxy, right? to visit other star systems, to see other planets, your consciousness is going to go through the roof in its evolution. Why? Because a piece of technology brought you there. So, you know, that is the key, is the balance between the external world and the internal world. No one should reject the other one, meaning the technologist should not reject the internal world, the world of consciousness, and the spiritual person should not reject the external world, the world of technology. The two are complementary, they're fundamental. And it's a very difficult thing to unify. It's like unifying both sides of the brain, but when they come together, then it's remarkable what can happen.
Well, thank you, which I don't disagree at all what you said.
Thank you.
But it doesn't answer my question. I guess I haven't asked it properly, which is, can it be that the core of a singularity device actually exists in the natural world as a device, like something we can tap on directly without building it with the same effects as a singularity device? That was more my train of thought. Like, does it already exist?
In the natural world?
More than a conflict between technology and the inner world, and whether I am or not. It's like, does it might be that already happened, that maybe a celestial sphere, it is already a singularity device happening naturally in the universe? That was more the idea running through.
Yeah, you know, the Earth is one of those. You know, the Earth is, you know, Buckminster called it the Earth ship. You know, it's our spaceship flying through the universe. You know, we are on one of those natural device, if you want to call it that way. It's just that it's, you know, it's on its own course, and you wouldn't want to take it off its course. And so, you know, by building one that's built for that purpose, then you can have it go where you want it to go, you know, and have the elements in it that you need so that you can go where you want to go with it.
Kind of makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chicos, lo sentimos mucho, pero si queremos que todo el mundo se pueda despedir un poco de Nassim, tenemos que dejarlo aquí porque quedan 20 minutos exactos y si no, os tendremos que echar aquí a patadas. No, ni respuestas cortas ni nada, ya lo siento. Escribirlas si queréis y se las paso en un papel y que os las conteste por email o cualquier cosa.
Thank you.
Lo siento muchísimo.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.